So it's a pretty nice day today. It's really windy. So again, if you hear the wind in the mic, I apologize. But I'm not even going to be able to avoid it today. So as you know, we have a broody hen who's been laying on some eggs for, well, 21 days today or tomorrow, one of the two. We had 10 eggs. We started her out with 10 eggs, and over time, different things happened, and we got down to 4 eggs. Now, to be clear, I've raised chicks from eggs before, but I had an incubator. And it's actually not too difficult to raise them in an incubator. Now, ducks are a different story. I've had a lot of problems with ducks. They're just so sensitive to temperature changes, but chickens aren't that bad. But this is the first time I've ever raised chickens or chicks or eggs using a broody hen. So this has been kind of a learning curve for us. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there that said that we should have done this, done that, done this, done that. 6 one way, half dozen the other. Everything I was reading said one thing or another, and it's about half and half. You should separate the chickens, but the other half of the things I was reading said you could leave the chickens in with the broody hen and everything will be fine. The broody hen will take care of the chicks. So she's kicked out several. So like I said, we had 4 eggs left. Well, last night I came down, there was 2 eggs, and there were the blue eggs, and blue eggs are from the Americanas. Oh, I should go back up a little bit and say that I candled the eggs, 2 or 3 nights ago, and I was pretty confident that they were healthy chicks inside these things. Last night I came down, and the 2 Americana eggs, and then there was 2 brown eggs. I'm not sure where they came from. They could have come from a Buff Orpington or a New Hampshire, but it doesn't matter, they're brown eggs. Well, the blue eggs, the shell itself had been picked away, leaving the skin membrane remaining. It was really odd. I've never seen anything like this. Everything I Googled didn't make any mention of this. So we only can make some assumptions that either the mother, the broody hen, or one of the other chickens pecked away at the shell and took the shell off the membrane. The membrane was very tough, much like plastic or a rubbery substance. Here's the membrane. This is what the membrane looks like. Now it's all dried out now, so it's kind of crumbly. But so we had the membrane, pieces of the shell kind of cracked around it. So it was just all in little pieces. I don't know how to explain it. So, but this was the membrane was very pliable. I mean, you could feel the chicken. I mean, it was just, the chicken was inside of a bag is what it was like. A plastic bag. That's the best way to describe it. So there was 2 of them like that. One of them, the membrane had a small tear in it, and a little bit of blood was coming out of it. Now that's a bad sign. But the good sign was it was moving around. The chick was inside the bag moving around. The other one, similar situation, the chick was inside the bag. No hole was in it though, and it wasn't moving. Now Carolyn thought she saw it moving, but we weren't sure, so we went with it wasn't moving. It was just very strange. I've never seen them in the shell removed and the bag there. Now, what's supposed to happen is the chick, and you can look this up on YouTube, they'll start to cut a line all the way around the egg, the top of the egg where their head is, all the way around, and the top will fall off and they come out of it. It's actually kind of neat to watch how precise they are at that. So that's not what happened. So this morning I got up, so the 2 eggs that had the bag, the 2 chicks that had the bag, the membrane, and no egg, had both died. It was obvious. One of them had tried to get out even more, so its bottom half had come out of the bag. It ripped the bag. The other one, like I said, I think it was dead anyways. I tried to get that all out there and cleaned up. Well, I was reaching around looking for the other 2 eggs that did not hatch. So we had 4, there was 2 that didn't hatch. And I pulled one out, and I couldn't find the other one. I'm up underneath her, and I'm feeling around. I'm like, what is that? And I pulled out, it was a live chicken. So another chicken, one of the brown egg chickens, survived. So that was fantastic. It had just been born. It was still wet, wasn't standing yet. It was just laying, kind of kicking around. Well, a few hours later, maybe an hour later, I don't know, I came back down and it was up and perky and all dried off and everything was fine. It's doing great. A little while later, the other one hatched. So we got 2. But the thing is I'm not sure how mom is going to protect them. because I know she's going to go out and eat. All new learning experience for us. The problem I was having was the other chickens. They would not leave Mom alone, just wouldn't leave her alone. Mom's being very patient, she's doing very well, but I knew she was going to have problems as soon as those chicks were exposed. These guys were going to cause a problem. Now, like I said, half of the things I read said you got to separate the chicken, the broody hen and the chicks from the other chickens. Half the things said you don't have to. So I don't, you know, what are you supposed to do? I believe in nature. I think nature should kind of guide your way. So I went with the natural thing and said, well, what do they do in nature? Obviously the chicks are hatched and there's a flock of other birds. They're all around. I mean, look at turkeys. That's the thing I noticed the most. Turkeys are in a big old flock out in the wild. One of those turkeys lay eggs. What do? Well, that just wasn't going to work. I just knew it wasn't going to work because the way these other chickens were reacting. Now, that being said, I don't know how wild chickens do things. Obviously, these are bred in a fashion to produce colored eggs and to produce eggs. They may not necessarily have the instincts of wild chickens that they got to take care of, so maybe there's human interaction required. So we put the mom and the two chicks in the camper. Now I would show you this, but it's been pretty traumatic. It's been very stressful on me. Mom has not liked the idea of having to move. She's not exactly sitting on the chickens like she's supposed to, like she was this morning. I mean, she had them up underneath her and taking care of them, but now she's kind of off to the side. She's not hurting them, which is typically what they'll do is peck them. She's not pecking them. So she knows they're hers. The move has made it pretty bad. So we're gonna keep an eye on it. The problem we got is we don't want these chicks to get cold. And we're still in temperatures where it's pretty cold at night. So if she doesn't try to keep them warm, we're gonna have to bring them into the house and raise them inside. I don't wanna do this. Last year it was miserable. We had 3 different age groups of chickens. It was terrible trying to get them all to integrate in with each other. And then we also had the meat birds. That made things even worse. Every time we try to integrate, the chickens would get beat on, the little chicks, the younger chicks would get beat on by the older chicks. Finally, in September, we got them all to integrate. But it was a real challenge. Every night I'd have to put them into the camper, and every day I'd have to bring them out to the chicken run and back and forth. The difference is this is 2. We got 2. And I got that little chicken thing that I made last year, bought last year. So what I'll do is, if this doesn't work, we'll bring them in the house until they're 6, 8 weeks old, whatever I think it's 8 weeks old, when they can actually maintain their own body heat. Then we'll bring them out here into that little chicken, I don't know, it's not even worth mentioning. It's a piece of junk, really, but we'll put them in that until they're old enough and I can feed them. That way I don't have to run them back and forth. They'll be protected. Nothing can get inside and get them at night. I mean, there's a risk that something could get in there, but it's pretty limited. I mean, the chicken wire kept predators out when we had the meat birds. So I would think that they would keep the predators out with these little chicks. And then by September, they should be big enough that they can integrate with the other chicks. I don't know, the Buff Orpingtons were laying eggs pretty early in the season. So they may get big enough by July time frame that we can let them integrate. But the New Hampshires, they took forever to produce eggs. They didn't start producing eggs until late fall. And the Americanas didn't start producing eggs until just recently. If they are like the Buff Orpingtons, they may start producing in July and we can mix them in, no big deal. Now the other thing we got to think about is we have 2 other Buff Orpingtons, and it's most likely that they'll go broody also. And Carolyn wants to continue to try to raise chickens with the broody process. You know, with things going bad in society and money problems, and the president saying there's going to be world food shortages and all kinds of things, she wants to learn this process, so we got it down pat. And that way when our chickens start to get too old and don't want to lay eggs anymore, we'll have new fresh chickens. We were talking about this morning, that we were going to have to think about getting different roosters. Eventually the roosters will be mating with their daughters. and that will produce defective chickens, grandbabies. What we'll end up doing is probably go over to that farm where we got all the Americanas at, and we'll get a rooster. She sells a rooster every now and then, so we'll get a rooster from her and replace our roosters. Most likely, when we do that, we'll just go ahead and replace both of them with one. I think having 2 roosters is just too much for these hens. 1 rooster should do fine, and it's less food that we got to feed them. It's not a lot more food. That, you know, rooster doesn't eat that much, but it's just more food that we really don't need to be feeding when those poor hens are always being mated all the time by the 2 roosters. So out of 10 eggs, we got 2 chicks. And technically, I'm not disappointed by that. I'm pretty satisfied. Our first shot at this, and it worked out pretty good. Now, that being said, we're not out of the woods yet. It's been, like I said, a pretty stressful day. Mama's not happy that she was relocated, so we may end up having to raise these things anyways. So I wish I could show you the chicks, but maybe tomorrow when Mama settles down, or if we have to bring them inside, I'll show you the chicks then. But right now, it's just not, she's not too happy. I'm not even seeing her right this minute, so she may not even be on them. She may be overeating or something. But the good news is she's not beating them to death either. So in the future, I think we'll go ahead and just separate the broody hen right at the get-go. When she becomes broody, you want her to recognize that you're going to come and check the eggs and different things. That's what I did with this broody hen. And then when you're ready to move them, they'll be okay with it. She was okay with me moving. She just doesn't like her new home. So if you can check out this other channel with this up next box, I'd really appreciate it. So I hope I can inspire you to give new things a try when you're living your dream. Thanks for watching.